Welcome to the lovely late night. How are you, Maya?
I am good. It is so good to be back. It's been a while.
It has. This sabbatical has been nice, but I don't want people to think that we were off resting and relaxing. We were out hustling and bustling, and we were getting our grind on, trying to
Yes.
elevate ourselves, our consciousness. And we just want to welcome you all back. We hope we didn't lose any subscribers, and hopefully, we'll get new people that want to tune in, be a part of the show, and participate with us. But, Maya, you as a mental maven have truly been on my mind with
Okay.
mental health and all of the different nuances that go on in day-to-day life with stresses and stressors. I said, how would Maya deal with some of these things? What nuggets can we give people to help them see how to find and navigate their way through stressful times, stressful relationships and situations? What would you tell people? Just
That's
the regular people who don't have that resource.
it's funny because that's a lot right there within itself because everybody has a unique situation. The pandemic has amplified things for people more so than the norm. And the
Yes.
thing people have to get used to, and this is what I've talked about all along, we have to normalize the conversation about mental health, mental wellness.
Yes.
I say treat your mind like you treat the rest of your body. Some people eat right, you work out, you go to the doctor, you take care of yourself. You have to take care of your mind the same way, which means being aware of your emotions, what you're thinking, kind of what's happening around you and how it's impacting you, and not always passing it off and trying to normalize stress. So often we normalize stress and being under duress and difficult situations. We push it to the back, and then only until we feel like we're to a point where we can't manage anymore, then
Mhm.
all of a sudden we seek help. We have to learn to think of our mental wellness on a daily basis, how you
Yeah.
rise. I always tell people, be well and rise. So when you wake up in the morning, think about how am I feeling right now? Like, what's my agenda? Before you go to bed at night, reflect on your day. If it was difficult, reconcile like what bothered me so much. It's like be in the moment and being mindful helps us to navigate difficult situations. When you put the work in every day, on
Every day.
focusing on your mental wellness,
Mhm.
your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul, the whole 9 yards, then
Mhm.
when difficult times hit, you can navigate a little bit better. But if you never take that balance, if you don't self care, if you're not willing to put yourself first, this is when things get difficult. And I want to normalize the conversation about mental wellness. And you're seeing more celebrities talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Venus Williams has started an initiative with mental health. We saw what happened with Naomi Osaka,
Yeah.
Simone Biles. I mean, the list goes on and on. We're hearing more people finally voicing. Even Taraji P. Henson has been doing some stuff with,
Yeah.
with mental health. And, it'll get a little blurb and then it kind of goes away. But if you look at the day-to-day news, you see everyday people are struggling.
Do you think it's because there's a stigmatism to mental health? People don't want to really come out, put themselves out there in the open because of the backlash that they may get, or it may create deeper wounds. Like, I tend to regress because I don't want to get in confrontations. I don't receive it. I don't want to use my resources and my time to do that. And I'm just looking for other ways to navigate through life where you don't have to have these situations of controversy that may lead to mental stress where you're feeling sad and you're depressed and you want to isolate yourself, or you just don't want to be bothered, or you want to cut people off. How do you do it? Just how do you do it? How do we get away from that stigmatism? Because as African Americans, especially coming up in the 70s and 80s,
Hmm.
it was really hush. Like, if somebody had a situation or a problem, they always sent them down south. They didn't send them to a therapist. Oh, seriously,
Oh,
not
you always have that person in your family, they're a little touch, they special. That's what you would hear things like that. Here's the thing culturally, the idea of mental health has stigmas across many cultures, not just within the African American community, within Latino communities, Asian communities. The idea of suck it up, deal with it, don't air your dirty laundry.
yeah,
These are all ways of saying not to deal with things and kind of suffer in silence. You had generations of people who functioned that way. Believe it or not, you had generations of people that were alcoholics because they would go to work, leave and go to a bar, or go home and drink a 6 or 12 pack of beer, go to bed, reset, restart, do it all again. And that was their way of dealing, like numbing themselves to the fact that they couldn't deal with a lot of their daily situations. And I can't tell you, Sean, how trauma has impacted so many generations of people, and it gets passed down to the next. So
like a curse, generational curse.
It is. And what we are seeing a shift in mental wellness taking a front seat. You're finally hearing people say things like, it's okay to not be okay. And it takes more courage to step into the light and to say, I'm not okay and I need help, than to suffer in silence and not get the help that you need. And sometimes it means you have to kind of shed some old ways. If you realize that something is not healthy in your diet physically, if your doctor tells you you have to reduce your sugar intake because you're borderline diabetic, are you not going to make those conscious choices so that you can sustain the healthiness that you need? You're going to make those choices. So I'd ask you this: why is it when it comes to our mental wellness, when we have to make hard choices about things that are affecting us in the domains I say that exist? Mental wellness overarches several domains: the emotional, the mental, the physical, the spiritual, the financial, believe it or not. And even the social. We exist in different domains, and how our mental wellness help us navigate it. So my thing is that if you know you're struggling with something or it's a difficult relationship, take the time to get help. As a therapist, I say it all the time to people: look, sometimes trying to lean into your family or friends is not always the best choice for you.
True.
You often need to reach to someone outside of your family so that you can legitimately get help and get an open, biased opinion to help you navigate difficult situations and relationships. So sometimes you do need to go talk to a therapist or counselor, because guess what? That's uniquely for you. And it impacts no other relationship that you have. Oh, it looks like here, caller's asking.
We have a caller asking a question, and I want to tag back on that. The caller is saying, as a health professional, do you see a culture that keeps it more hush-hush than others?
I would tell you maybe 10 or 15 years ago, yes. Because if we tend to stay in our silos and feel that African Americans were very silent. We did not believe in mental health. But I'm going to tell you something, even from a Latino standpoint, it was there too. Asians often culturally do not believe in sharing their issues. So I'm going to tell you something. It's kind of equally yoked, if you want to know the truth. But what's interesting, especially within minority communities, mental wellness and mental health is not something that was often embraced and celebrated. Let me tell you this too. Let me just add this. From a standpoint of psychology, most research and studies and past practices were not focused on minority groups and how to deal with their cultural struggles. So hence, most minorities didn't really believe that they would get much from it.
Do you think it's because most minorities don't have the resources to get out there, or they don't have the information that is available to kind of help them navigate to find help? Because some of the things or some of the resources that are available are to people who are in working class. Like with my employer, we have the Employee Assistance Program, EAP, which is commonly known. Everybody doesn't have the resources to get that. It used to be unlimited. But now they've reduced it to 6 sessions within the span of 12 months. What about the people who don't have EAP, or they're not related to an individual who can offer them the opportunity to use their resources to get help? I think African American people as a whole tried to keep things in-house. We grew up with this stigma of what goes on behind closed doors stays behind closed doors. And that has affected so many generations, and it continues to go forward, because now that those children that came up in that era in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, now that we're adults, we want to look at it from a different vantage point than our parents. Therefore, we are not able to stay silent anymore. If something hurts, you want to say something. Or I've heard a mantra that people have said: hurt people hurt people. So what is it really? How can we get to a source to help?
I will tell you this, and I would tell you, it's not so much there's a lack of resources as much as there's a lack of connecting people to the resources and proper information. For instance, if you're in Illinois listening or anywhere else, the Affordable Health Care Act, Obamacare, whatever you want to call it, pretty much rolled out, there's going to be mental health benefits within the scope of what you do. but most people don't know how to access them because it's often really complicated. Like they're like, first of all, the primary care person on my card doesn't even really help me. And if I
Right.
call customer service, they'll give me a list of people. What
Yeah.
most people don't realize is within your county or within even Chicago, there's community health centers that are medically related that have behavioral health or mental health components added into them. So you may call into a medical, like let's say,
Advocate.
office, and you have to just say, but what I'm really seeking is behavioral health.
Yes.
And they'll say, oh, okay, you can actually go online and find it too. So the resources are there. Most people just don't know how to find them because it's not, I wouldn't say it's not cumbersome. It's not as easy as if you have private insurance. I'll be honest. If you have private insurance, first of all, just about everybody will take your insurance. But if you have state insurance or any form of, Affordable Health Care Act, it is limited who will take the resources, so to speak. But there are people there. So it's a matter of reaching out and doing that. I always say to people, if you're struggling with it and you can't figure it out, send me a direct message and I can probably point you in the right direction of where your provider is going to be. If you're within Illinois, places like Aunt Martha's, VNA are big things throughout the suburbs that fill the gap that are different than Cook County, because Cook County has all the community health centers.
Yes.
And when you go to each one online, it'll tell you if they actually have behavioral health tied into it.
Or they can call the general numbers for the Cook County and they will navigate them accordingly. I know with Blue Cross Blue Shield and under Advocate, they always say just flip your card over on the back of your medical, well, it's not a medical card, but your insurance card, and it has the listings for behavioral health services, detailed, itemized out with the phone number to get resources.
Right.
I was just wondering about that. I know we're approaching, just living in COVID and everything that's happened in 2019, 2020, and seems to be following us into 2021. A lot of people are struggling because they're dealing with loss of income, no work. They're dealing with loss of loved ones who have succumbed to COVID, and death seems to be around. A lot of people are losing people. And where should they go? And when they're depressed and they're going through those things, they need to have a resource. If they don't have a church or an apostle or a pastor or a bishop, somebody to talk to, where are they going to get replenished or to get their spiritual nurture?
One of the biggest things that I really share with people, especially if you're dealing with the loss of a loved one, I am a big supporter of grief support groups, because often when you can find people who are where you are, you find a way to kind of navigate through it. And I will tell you this, even with counseling, grief counseling is different than just regular counseling for other issues. How we approach it, how we deal with it, it's not the same type of approach because it's a very specific topic that needs dealing with. So even within a counseling standpoint, grief counseling is very individual. I would tell you sometimes you may choose to do grief counseling as a family if it incorporated many people. You may want to say, let's take, if you lost a spouse or a grandparent, you might want to say, let's go to counseling as a family to navigate this together. There are grief support groups. And it's interesting because different people actually will facilitate them. So it really depends on where you're at. Sometimes, believe it or not, it might be hospice groups that have grief support groups because they often deal with grief and loss. That's unfortunately what they do. So many hospice organizations will have grief support groups. So you can Google a hospice, group in your area, and I guarantee you they're going to probably have a grief support group and different events and things to get involved in. This is hit or miss. In some cases, there are actually some funeral homes that do grief groups because they know it's a service they can offer to communities because they understand how difficult it is for people to lose people. So grief support groups, sometimes this is why the internet is powerful and people should use it as a great tool. Go to Google and put in grief support groups, put your city and state next to it. And generally speaking, it can flesh out for you what's in your area that can help you with that. But I would tell you, doing grief, and here's the thing about grief. Grief is not just about the loss of loved ones. There's a misunderstanding of this. We actually define grief as the loss of something that impacts you on an emotional and mental level. So people who lost their jobs and their incomes fell into a loss and they really went into depression and anxiety. And many of the stages of grief, like anger, denial, acceptance, it's a journey you go through with grieving that helps you to come out at the other side and say, okay, I have to deal with this. So understand grieving is not just about the loss of a loved one. It's also, it's loss in general that impacts you on a level that changes the trajectory of where you're going emotionally and mentally.
That's deep. And it's true, because when you lose something, you're trying to fill a void,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know, how can I fill that void? I lost my grandmother. Nobody can fill that void. So people take different avenues to get to that point. And people who have a relationship with Christ or with God, He fills those voids when you're suffering. He is a God of comfort and peace, because I didn't lose anybody recently, but I have people that are close to me who I love and I'm concerned about, who have experienced loss of loved ones. And just watching them go through the motions, thinking, man, I just want to be there, support, be strong. If I can help you move something, or listen, or share a taco, or just to be there, it's important. And I was thinking, because I saw in the news of this information about Michael K. Williams. I cannot believe he's gone. We lost a prominent reporter here from WGN, Allison Payne.
Mm-hmm.
Their families, we lost actors, people who we're used to seeing on TV, but we could go to Netflix and rewind. They're actually gone from their loved ones' lives. And I was looking at some information on Apple News, and I was really disturbed at the response that a known rapper, 50 Cent, had to say about Michael K. Williams. He had no remorse about this man being deceased, and even joked about it. Like, how do you do that and put it out in the media, and these people have family and friends who are grieving with a loss? So
that's a person with, to me, a strong loss, like lack of empathy. And not respect for another person. There was, his comment was kind of in reference to Michael K. Williams' addiction,
yes,
which, by the way, was not a secret.
no,
He actually did an interview where he mentioned that addiction was a daily battle for him, that you never get past it. You always have to focus and keep it ahead of you. There was a person to me whose story was so unique because he came from rough, humble beginnings. And really created what I thought was a very unique space for himself in Hollywood, which is not always easy to do, especially for Black male actors. And I mean, his works, we're talking about The Wire. And if you watched The Wire, that was good stuff.
And he was hardcore.
He was hardcore. So he was
a gay man.
But I'm going to tell you something. Here's the thing about it. Do you know I never once thought about that man's sexuality? Because I was watching his craft and his character. I just didn't put that in the front of my mind. I don't lead with that with people. Okay. It's one dimension of who you are. So I always look at people like the dimension of your gender was one piece of the totality of you, who you are, your race, obviously your sexual orientation.
Exactly.
There's all these different things that make you the unique being that you are. So I never kind of focus in on one. I always just watched how he played his role. So he was like on Boardwalk Empire. He was just in and was great. I mean, fantastic in Lovecraft Country. Mm-hmm. I mean, the guy was just naturally talented. He brought something unique to it. And you know what? This gets back to, we said this when DMX died. It's too bad we're not giving people their roses when they're here to get them.
Yeah. That's true.
It's sad that we sing in his praises. And I'm like, and this is why I say celebrate people in the living, because we don't, based on what we've seen. Well, how old was he? 54? Yeah. Allison Payne was only 57.
Only 57.
Only 57. And my thing is, at no point of time, I'm pretty sure, did either one of them believe that they weren't going to be here beyond Nazi 60. And this is why when you see people doing great things, you respect them and celebrate them, let them know you are appreciated. You are special. You are doing something amazing. I think he knew that, though. I think he knew people were amazing. I think he knew it.
He knew he was amazing. And he also said that he felt like he was being used as a vessel to help other people that were addicted to come out and let them know about the struggle, so they could see somebody they could identify with and try to get the proper resources and help. But I want to ask you, when I listened to the comment, and I watched the video reel of 50 Cent, making the, I felt it was egregious comments about him being addicted to fentanyl and it's the way he's going to go, or he should have went. Do you think that he's so far removed because of his socioeconomic background that allowed him to feel free to say what he wanted to say. Do you think that when people are at a certain status, they feel like they're exempt and they can just move forward and speak on whatever they want to in
No, look,
regards to
no,
life?
look, here's real talk. And I would tell you this is the truth about you can be a mere mortal, the average Joe.
Yeah.
When you own your truth
Hmm.
and you speak it into existence,
Mm-hmm.
you take away all of that firepower from the people who want to tear you down. When you own it and say, yeah, I had addiction issues. Yeah, I had a DUI. Yeah, I had a failed marriage. Whatever it is was your transgression. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
own it, you really take the winds out of the sails of people who want to be your critic because you already know what your shortcomings are. You're like, that was then, this is now, and I'm rising. But while I'm rising, before I could take that step, I had to acknowledge where I came from. If you don't know where you've been, you won't know where you're going.
That's true. That's true. And I think when you do take the opportunity to speak up and say, yeah, I'm overweight, or yeah, I'm struggling with food and portion control, then you allow that person to be able to manipulate the situation, manipulate you, try to embarrass you, reduce you. You take ownership of who you are. It's true. But that
And
comes
that's
with
something that
acceptance too.
that's what people have to understand. You can't step to the plate with a falsehood. And you have some people who want to portray themselves, like I'll give you an example. And her struggle bothers me because I'm like, she's not there yet. I look at someone like Lizzo, who wants to embrace the fact that she is overweight. She wants to be empowered. She wants to walk with it. She wants to do all these things. But when people come from her, because people will be haters, you know this. This is just how it is. When
That's
you
true.
are solid in your conviction and you have accepted who you are, it doesn't
Mhm.
quite feel the same way, which tells me she's still struggling with the very thing that she wants to be comfortable with. And that's why I say the truth begins with you. So if you know you're not ready, if you know you can't do it, don't oversell because you're going to end up under delivering when people come for you. And that's what people have to understand. You don't have to walk the talk. You don't have to appease anybody. You have to be happy with who you are. And here's the thing. If being overweight bothers her, then it does.
Yeah.
And she might say, I'm trying to empower myself and it isn't easy. I'm still going to do
Yeah.
this. You know what I mean? But it's
Yeah.
like, but being in the public eye will tell you this is difficult. And that's why I said that's a really hard pill to swallow when you decide that's going to be your anthem, because our society does not embrace, they try to say don't fat shame and all those kind of things. But
Yeah.
we know how that works. If you do too much, somebody's going to come for you. That's just how it is.
It is. It is. The haters are real. The haters are real.
Yeah.
And I think she actually, I saw something, an interview or some commentary that Lizzo had out there saying that she felt so alone. Like people would think with all of the notoriety she has, she's living high off the hog, not as a pun, but she's living high off the hog, having a great time. And she's home crying. She's literally at home crying because she says she has she wanted someone to call her. She was in need of something. And I was thinking all the time, well, she just needs to turn to God because He is going to be consistent. He will be there. When your girlfriend won't answer the phone, when your significant other won't, He will be there. So I can empathize with her,
I can. But she still has to there's work that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And hopefully she got the red flag that I got work to do.
Yeah.
Seriously. And the question turns into, I need to reconcile. Am I really okay with who I say I am? Or do I really, under the surface, still have this insecurity, but I want to be, this is me and I want to accept it? Well, then there's work for you to do. And, I'm going to be honest, when you choose to do work in the public eye, that comes with a lot of scrutiny and you have to be thick-skinned. It was interesting, and this conversation came up when Naomi Osaka struggled.
Okay.
They went to Serena Williams to ask her comment. And I could tell that Serena was fighting everything within her being to say, when you're us, you have to be thick-skinned, because that's exactly what her and Venus understood. By the way, King Richard, the show that the movie is coming out about their dad, I think it's out already. Will Smith plays their father. It shows their adversity. They're thick-skinned because from day one, they didn't have a choice.
They didn't have a choice, and they had to be. And he actually assisted. Well, there was no doubt about it. Their father was key and instrumental in getting them prepared for society and what was waiting on the outside of the door. Everybody's not going to love you like mommy and daddy. So you got to prepare for that.
And even when they made it, look at all the scrutiny that has followed them from day one. And there's still a critic somewhere that wants to deconstruct who they are. And I guarantee you, there's probably sometimes they're in private and it hurts, but they know how to navigate it.
When they
But I guarantee you, they know how to navigate adversity, and they know not to let people see you sweat. They get it. But you got to be careful with that, because look how many people suffered in silence and we didn't know, like Robin Williams and Anthony Bourdain.
You're right.
Look how many people suffered in silence, put on that happy face. And here we are going, Robin Williams blew me away. I was like,
what about K-Spade?
Well, right. I was like, the man who made me laugh, who started out with Nanu, you know, with Mork and Mindy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm showing my age now, right? But the man who made me laugh all the time was crying in the inside, and nobody saw it. Not even his family.
Unbelievable.
So don't suffer in silence. Here's what I tell everybody: don't suffer in silence. It is okay to not be okay. And if you don't feel you have that person in your life you can lean into, that can be your support network. This is when I would tell you, I want you to go get a counselor or a therapist so you can start to figure these things out.
This is a lot going on. But speaking of things going on, Larry Elder was a victim of a hate crime caused by woke privilege. Okay? This man, Larry Elder, was under an egg attack. Somebody was throwing eggs at him this week as a Black Republican recalled by a white woman wearing a gorilla mask, a hate crime that blamed woke privilege for liberal silence on the issue. I don't know if this man is doing this for publicity or if he actually really believes these narcissistic thoughts that he has in his head. I'm glad he did not win the election. I don't want to say that against the supporters who do care for him, but I think he's inciting a lot of controversy and not trying to invoke peace. What do you feel about that in California? California has too much going on. They got fires. They got land.
They got mountain lions doing stuff.
Now we got this lady in a gorilla mask. And I don't understand why he feels that he was under attack when he spouts such rhetoric that incites violence. It incites anger.
But here's my thing. See, this is the problem. This is where we are now in 2021.
Yeah.
The Kraken has been let out. Release the Kraken. It's out. And for all my Clash of the Titan folks, you know what that means. The Kraken is out, and we know where it started.
Yeah.
And intelligent people know how to express themselves in a way that doesn't necessarily have to be insulting. Mm-hmm. But you're speaking to a fact what you're speaking to does not mean it's necessarily a fact. This is the other thing we have to deal with people. Like, what is fact and reality for some people is very jaded. Mm-hmm. So here's my thing. If someone says something that insults me or I don't agree with, what I'm not going to go do is go put on a gorilla mask and throw eggs at you, because that's childish. And I don't understand that level of thinking. And I would probably tell you, I don't think we're functioning along the same IQ. I'm just going to be that ignorant and say that, because I just don't think that's normal. That's not the reaction that I'm going to have to something. I'll be like, well, that's silly. If I think you're even worth me engaging you in conversation, then I might answer it. But if he was somebody I didn't agree with, if I was so passionate about the issue, I'm like, who's running against him so I can go align myself with that person and help them to get elected? I'd put my energy in something that yields outcomes. But here's the problem. We have run rampant in this country and everybody has lost their mind and everybody's acting out. And it's acting out everywhere from January 6th to all this stuff you're seeing right now. Mm-hmm. Everyone's just acting out now. And my question is, who's going to put everybody back in line? Because clearly there's nobody in administration right now who's going to do it. So what rights this ship of poor behavior of people in this country?
Actually, they're saying this young lady got confrontational near a homeless encampment. So I really feel like he was worried about his surroundings. Maybe he didn't choose the right location to go and do his politicking, because obviously she's one of God's special people. It was too hot for that mask in California. I've been there recently, and it was extremely hot.
It's bad on both sides. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
It looks bad on both sides, but unfortunately she looks worse.
Right. Because the pink part of the wig is nappy, but you know, I really think that people do feel like they have entitlement. And when they feel like that, they want to go and do and act and be how they want to be, and there's no repercussions for it. So I think, though, if the tables had been turned,
no.
It was something else, and we probably would have a situation, maybe assault charge or something like that. I don't know.
Well, they said it's being looked into, so we'll see where it goes. Okay. But I always say, be careful. You reap what you sow.
You do.
So if you decide you want to be controversial, then know what comes with that. Friction.
Exactly. For every action, there's a reaction. And with that, I want to just share with people a public service announcement, Maya, because we want to create awareness in the show, and we really want to do positivity and positive things for everyone.
The U.S. has seen a staggering 70% increase in teen suicide. Children aren't equipped to handle these situations. There are so many resources for both teens and parents.
Are we an open family?
Yeah. I think we are. Is everything okay?
Yeah. I'm fine. Actually, there's something we should talk about. As a family. So, this is hard for me to talk about, but I think it's important.
Ooh, that's a doozy. Yikes. That's gonna hurt tomorrow. Folks, you don't have to be an old athlete like me to wake up with sore joints. 54 million Americans have rheumatic diseases like rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. And most types don't have anything to do with age or getting sacked 3 million times. Getting treatment from a rheumatologist was a game changer for me, which is why I'm teaming up with the American College of Rheumatology for Rheumatic Disease Awareness Month this September. These diseases are serious, they're lifelong, and can really put a hitch in your giddy-up if you don't get help from a specialist. A rheumatologist can help you figure out what's going on and get you back to enjoying your life. Know the signs and get help. Ask your doctor if you should see a rheumatologist. Learn more at simpletask.org.
Listen, you're my friend.
I noticed you haven't really been yourself recently.
Yeah, I feel like something's up.
How are you?
Are you okay?
Is there anything you want to talk about?
I just want to know how you're feeling.
And listen, even if you don't know what to say, I'm here to talk.
No matter what you're going through,
I just want you to know I'm here.
I've got your back. When you want to talk, I'm here.
Yes, mental illness resources are available. It's a tough subject, but it's good when you do have people that you can talk to. And then if you don't have people, just know that there's someone available on an open mind. Most of them are toll-free lines, and you can go and get resources or assistance. I read an article September 13th on Monday, it just gripped my soul. It was about a with the Department of Transportation.
Mhm.
Family's name was Ingram, and the mother had just met the day before to get treatment and assisted speaking with a therapist. And she misplaced a device, memory card for her phone. She questioned her 12-year-old son about it, who was in seventh grade. When he was, she shot him twice in the head, and he died. This boy was so beautiful. It hurt my heart so much. I can't understand how something like this can happen. And then the dad, my heart just goes, sounds like he lost two people because now the mom is in bond court. She's awaiting trial or whatever the appropriate protocol steps are. And he said this son was the best one. And now he is now dealing with a void and a loss in a setting where he seems to have not known or not been aware of the signs. I think before you can help people, I think you also be aware of the signs that people are struggling, because a lot of times people are violent, they're not open. So if you don't know, and I'm the kind of person, Ryan, which you gotta just come out and tell me, because you may be thinking ABC and I'm all the way at WXYZ. So you have to be able to see the signs too. Or maybe should you just periodically ask, hey, Maya, are you okay? What can I help you with? Are you going through something? What are some of your suggestions along that realm? Because I don't know if you heard about this story.
Oh, yeah.
This thing.
Everyone heard about this story. Here's the thing, it's complicated because though I'm a therapist, I also work in a crisis intervention role, which means I see both sides of the spectrum.
Okay.
So it's interesting if she had just saw a therapist the day before. I don't know, was it like a first time visit? Did she realize something wasn't okay? And generally speaking, we are mandated reporters. So regardless, it's one of the things we disclose, like, look, if you make a statement that doesn't make any sense to us, we'll have you further evaluated, beyond my office. If you talk about harming someone, we have a duty to warn. There's always components with private practice that we keep in mind. I don't know what happened. If she actually saw a therapist, was it an emergency room visit? I don't know. So it's hard to tell. And it's interesting. I'm going to tell you something. I will say this, and I don't know who saw her. I feel bad for the person because that person right now is probably beating themselves up. Yeah. I can cross. I can actually say I thank my lucky stars all the time, and being in my role for the last 12 years. Yeah. That I've never had a misstep. Knock on wood. Seriously. Definitely. Now it doesn't mean that I haven't seen people who've had bad endings later down the road. Yeah. But the immediacy of need, I've fared well with, and I'm very sensitive to this. So because I don't know the full scope of what happened, like, was it a first time visit? Was it the ER? Yeah, they I found it hard to believe, and I will say this for my fellow practitioners. Okay. I don't believe that she sat in front of anybody and said anything like so off the cuff, and they just let her go home.
And they didn't address it.
Because people can say like the slightest thing. And we work at a treatment team like in the ER, and it's like, okay, let's talk about this. We don't know this person. And that's one of the things we always have to be aware of. We don't know this person. So we often reach out to, and it's interesting because, I hear this frequently from people in the city, Chicago. Wow. Say, you guys, the reason people come out to the suburbs is you guys do too much. I've heard people say some of the people they'll let walk out their ERs, they're indifferent to. I've heard people say that. Now I can't confirm nor deny because I'm not in that role, but I've heard people make the comment who've actually worked like in those hospitals, like they don't care like that. We don't just let people walk out our doors. I don't know if we're overly sensitive in the suburbs, so to speak. That's good, but we really evaluate, okay, I don't know this person. Let's find somebody who can tell us more about him. If we really have any inkling, if you did one thing that doesn't sit right with us, it's like, who can we find to talk about this? And honestly, when it's all said and done, if we can't make a definitive decision, if you walk out that door that I feel okay with you walking out that door,
Right.
you're not walking out the door, and you will hate me for it. But I rather you hate me.
Do you have retention capabilities? Are you all able to retain someone if you feel
Absolutely.
like they're
So
to themselves or someone else?
So here's what's important to know about this, and this is like the nuances of mental health.
Okay.
Mental health code is not like if you go to if you go to ER because you're having chest pains, and they tell you we want to admit you for observation, and you could say no, I'm going home.
Right.
I'm going AMA. They can't stop you from leaving, even though they've given you medical reason to stay. The mental health code is different. If we question for one moment that we think you ain't right, we can actually restrict your rights to leave. And people get mad, like, you can't stop me. It's like, actually, by law, I can. Now, what it's called is a petition. So I will petition and say, based on what I've gathered in this evaluation, and it goes in front of a judge, I didn't feel comfortable with them leaving because there was this part that I could not get a clear answer to. How petition works for the general public. If you know somebody isn't right in your household, and this is just, people struggle with this. Something's not right. You call 911. You call, don't think twice about it if you know something isn't right. When they arrive.
To do that, Maya, because you're looking at look at the situation.
People, I'm saying something. People getting better about it because I see it.
Calling 911.
Oh yeah, people getting better about it.
Do you remember the grandmother in Chicago who called 911 because her grandson had mental health issues, and then the police came, shots are fired. You know, people have a lot of concerns nowadays about.
I mean, you're right. I mean, but you have to look at the numbers. The numbers don't all kind of result that way. That was an unfortunate outcome to a situation. I mean, seriously, but for the amount of calls, and actually, this is where people start talking about defunding the police. And what that means is not get rid of the police. It means start reallocating funds to bring in programming and specialists so that when you go into a crisis situation, you have a person, an expert who can step in and be like, okay, what are we doing here? Because I'll be honest, I can probably deal with a person with a mental health issue sometimes better than someone in law enforcement because I'm looked at as less threatening. A person in law enforcement can bring someone into my respective job in an ER and they're hot, mad, just want to do bad things. And I can walk in and be like, well, what are you doing here? And they're just like, what? You know, it's just a different mindset of when they do. Yeah, you know, I have that. I always tell people it's the Jedi mind trick I do on people. The running joke. People are like, how do you do that? I said, it's a Jedi mind trick. Don't worry about it. But no, really. There is an understanding that mental health is overarching throughout society, and law enforcement, for what it's worth, for a long period of time was not prepared for it. They didn't know what to do with that. They didn't. You don't know if someone is doing something, if they have if you see someone holding a gun, you have no idea if they have a mental health history or not. You don't. A weapon of any kind. You have no idea who they are unless you've had frequent running in with that person. You don't know. So they have to use a judgment that's difficult. But I do believe we're seeing more education coming into play. It doesn't mean bad things still aren't happening, but it's a difficult thing to navigate. And I tell people before you judge it, you have to stand a mile in their shoes. You have to walk it to understand. It's not easy. I mean, I've had people come in that are combative with me, and we have to navigate things, you know, and have an understanding of what we're dealing with. So I will tell you this, if you ever call 911, and they show up, you have to be honest. But it is really important that you go to the hospital and request to fill out a petition. Because
what is the petition?
So petition is a legal document that says the reason this person is here, and you cite the events that happened. So I'll make something up. Maya got into an argument. She has a mental health history of schizophrenia. She threatened to do this, and this. You list what happened, reasons why you feel like they need to be actually seen by a psychiatrist in an inpatient capacity.
So you have to do a detailed itemization of what they.
Well, no, you just put an account. No. Remember, a judge tells me why right now, what happened? Did they threaten to hurt themselves, you, somebody else? Do you think they are a danger to themselves or other? And if you do, why? That's what it comes down to. That document is the difference in being able to make sure somebody gets help. I'll be honest, everybody's not committed to mental health the same way. And you can look at an officer and say, they need to go to the hospital and I'm willing to go to petition. And they're going to be like, what you know about that? And you could be like, Maya said, no, I'm just kidding. Because when you throw that out there, they're going to be like, petition, like I'm willing to petition them because they need inpatient help. They're not okay.
Right.
It's knowing how to speak the language in a way that kind of gets people more abreast. And maybe one day, I don't want to consume the episode with it, but maybe one day we'll really do something more about kind of mental health steps and mental health first aid, what that looks like, and understanding the signs and things to be aware of with people. Yeah, because there's something called mental health first aid. Yes, there is.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's what I mean. The top 10 signs that'll let you know I should be questioning this person or watching them or inquiring, because sometimes you have a situation like this little boy. It seems like the father was totally aback by this.
And that's the thing that kind of throws me off for a loop. I was like, he had no indication she wasn't okay.
Yeah.
So that's why I need to hear
and
more.
Because she worked at, they said she was working at her job for a long time.
Well, that doesn't mean people can't, psychotic breaks come in different kind of ways. By the way, two things. At the bottom of the screen, you say NAMI.org. If you're looking for local resources, this is a national mental health alliance that has regional offices that if you can't find someone, they can help you find someone. And it goes by city, it goes by county. So if you're really struggling to find that resource, go to that website and it can help you find someone. Is there any personal liability to petitioning someone? Okay, no, there's not. So here's how petitions work. You're saying, this is why I feel like this person needs to be inpatient. Now, they do go in front of a judge. A judge says, because you restricted somebody's rights when you don't let them physically walk out the hospital.
That's true.
The judge has to know why. I've never, I probably watch me say this and I go to work and this happens. In my 12 years, and I've done so many petitions, I can't tell you, I've never been to court one time. Because the reason I requested it stood its ground. Now, don't do it on no petty stuff. You need to be real about this. So there is no personal liability. You can't go to jail. You can only go to jail if you lied on the petition, if you made up some stuff that wasn't true. So you can't do this like, I just think they're not okay. That's not a good enough reason. They have to make you really believe they are a danger to themselves and others. And you need to be able to cite examples why it is. Petitions also are time sensitive. You can't cite something from 6 months ago. It has to be at least within a 24 to 48 hour period of behavior you saw that warrants concern. So you can't say 3 months ago, then why didn't you do something 3 months ago? You know what I mean? So it's time sensitive. So you must be absolutely honest. The only accountability is if you lie, because this is a legal document. Yeah. But if you're telling the truth, you stand your ground.
Yeah, you probably would go to jail for falsification
of information. Now, I will tell you this. A person, if you fill out a petition, and people usually don't even ask, to tell you the truth, if they ask who wrote the petition, by law, we do have to disclose. So you have to know, if it's asked who petitioned me, we have to share who it was. We can't, it's not a secret. I have to tell you that. It's not a secret.
Oh, so wait. So you can petition someone without them being there?
Well, no. I mean, if they're there, it means at their point, they're in an emergency room. They're being evaluated for inpatient. You're providing the additional information that's needed to know why this person should be inpatient. So you are a witness to a behavior that you feel makes that person a danger to themselves and others. Mm-hmm. So it has to be factual and it has to be timely. So you must cite facts that are relevant. And it could be things from, they are diagnosed with this, they have been off their medication for, here's what's key. You can say the person's diagnosed bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, they've been off their meds for a year. That's a key thing to know. But why I'm concerned now is they're hearing voices, they're seeing things. I believe, they think they're paranoid, and this behavior becomes worse. And often as it escalates, they become aggressive.
Okay.
So it's key. I don't want it to seem complicated because it's not, but I want people to understand what they have to be able to say. Okay. And a judge likes things simple and short. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Simple and short. Speaking of simple and short, I'm wondering about Italy. Venice, Italy. I was talking to someone today and they said, are you thinking about traveling abroad? And I said, yes, I want to go to Italy. I want to have some authentic spaghetti. I want to have authentic red wine. He said, well, if you're going, go to Venice. And I suggest you go sooner rather than later. And I said, well, we were talking about going to Greece first. What's all the hopscotch we're getting to Venice? He said, it is sinking so rapidly, Sean. Mm-hmm. He said, it will be like in Atlantis very soon underwater. What is going on? I can't wrap my mind around that.
I can. So, and the many facets of Maya. So I'm a nerd. I really want to be on Jeopardy, but I'm afraid because I'm like, I'm all nervous. Like I'll get the wrong answer. So I won't do it. No, I'm not going to say, I know my shortcomings. I ain't doing it. So I know my limitations. So Venice, like Miami, New Orleans, are coastal cities. And as the sea level rises, which is the melting of polar ice caps, people don't believe that global warming is real. The sea level rises. So Miami is dealing with the same thing, and they're like kind of redoing parts of the city and stuff like that. New Orleans is already under, you see what happens with hurricanes, and it's already under sea level. So it's also sinking, but just parts. It's a natural course of the earth changing globally. But what makes Venice unique, and it's not going to sink next week. It's not.
Right.
But they are definitely having issues where they have to do a lot of different things to deal with it because it's built on a marsh. New Orleans is the same way. It's built on marshy land and it sinks. And that's part of the issue.
So I'm wondering if how it would be financially to get an infrastructure to, I know I'm always looking for the happy rainbow. I'm thinking about an infrastructure that would preserve this. That will preserve this place because it's significant to people who are traveling, people who relocated from Italy here to now they're living in Illinois or Michigan in different states. They want to go back home. It can't just disappear by going down under sea level.
Well, like I said, it's not happening tomorrow. So he kind of over exaggerated. It would take something more catastrophic, like, and I don't know this to be true in the region, there was some type of an earthquake that then really unsettled the ground, so to speak. It would take something really more drastic. But it is sinking to the point where they're having to block out parts of the city. They have to put wooden ways. I mean, I remember watching a documentary on this a while back, and it is becoming progressively worse. The question is really, where does the city sit or stand, and how much marshy is that? Technology is interesting. Yeah. So either they can try to do something that can create sort of like a levee system like you have in New Orleans tries to push more water out.
I think we have to do better.
I can't even imagine to even put that type of technology into play, how much that would even cost because it's coastal. Whereas at least, New Orleans is kind of built obviously into the land and it's a little different how the levees work. So, I mean, again, it would take a lot of money. I've seen some interesting projects happen where people have actually blocked out the ocean. And I'm telling you, this costs money. And then you get to see what's there. And you can then maybe go in. But the amount of money it would take to build like these, they're called, they're called billy walls that go around. I can't imagine what that would cost. So, and I don't know that Italy has that kind of money. That's the thing. So you're going to be needing some philanthropist to step in and say, how can we help? Someone who's willing to give the time and the resources is what I think. But I would tell you, get there while you can, because it's beautiful and the food is fantastic. Okay, so we have come to the end of the show. Thank you for joining us again. The ladies, lately the late night, we're back. We have so much to talk about. Obviously, our platform is back. We've got new additions. So make sure you tune in next Thursday at 8 p.m. because the show will go on. There she is. We'll see you guys next week.